Bristol Boulevard Building Committee to order. And our item of business is to evaluate a proposal to fund Phase 1, inclusive of changes to seating and parking capabilities, and to take any other action as necessary. So to begin with, seating. There is general agreement that the seating will be 750 seats.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the other elephant in the room, of course, is parking. We've sort of taken on the responsibility of parking and have put together a meeting with the city planner Tuesday of next week to kick off a complete investigation of what options are available. So that is also underway. Now with that...
If I can ask Craig, who's going to meet with?
Well, we decided last meeting, John and myself.
Oh, okay.
John and myself would meet with the city planner. Ken?
Yeah, over
The
here.
architect will be there. The site planner will be there. And we sort of worked on an agenda and the various concepts of opportunities that are available. So certainly my own personal expectation, we can get it done. But with that, we talk about Phase 1. 7 months ago, we were all ready to move forward. There's been a long delay. People's memories, my own memory, when you start asking questions. There was a meeting here yesterday, there were a lot of questions asked. So with that, the intent today is to go through Phase 1. So we all have an opportunity to ask questions and walk away understanding what we're buying. And with that, then hopefully we'll be able to proceed. So Kent McCoy, our architect, is going to go through where we were on Phase 1.
And okay. And when we completed our initial designs for Phase 1, we looked at a range of seating options from 800 down to 500 and kind of everything in between to see what the best fit was. Given the recent decision to go to 750 seats, I'm not showing you any of the schemes that we have that show a lower number than that. And in fact, the scheme that's here on the computer is 800 seats. But essentially, the only difference between the 800 seat scheme and the 750 seat scheme is seat width. And I can show you that in plan. As you know, there's an issue with the parking, and as Frank said, we are meeting with the town planner next week to begin to discuss it. This is the site plan that our site designer, to design in Britain, did for the project. And basically, the theater component of the project requires 250 parking spaces. I know you've heard this at other meetings. And then the balance of the building also has a parking requirement depending on its use. And the way the zoning ordinance is written is you are allowed to sort of credit half of your daytime use against parking spaces that are required for nighttime use. In any case, we still have a parking shortfall of about 175 spaces that, as Frank said, we have a subcommittee working on trying to solve so that we can get through planning and zoning with the theater seats as proposed. As far as the architectural design for the theater, I'll just, for a minute here, just walk you through the existing design. As you can see on these are the existing plans you're looking at right here. So the theater all the way to the right, and the seats are in color. The thing about the seats, well, things you'll notice in plan is there are no toilet rooms adjacent to the theater, no lobby, no ticket office, no coat room. And I should point out the seats are all designed for 1920s high school students. So by contemporary standards, they're narrow and the aisle depth is short, which is, but doable. So the reason we presented a wide range of seat numbers was to hit parking targets, but also to give you the option of going to wider, longer aisle seating arrangements if you'd like to. The other thing about the seating arrangement you can see on the right is that the prime viewing location in theaters are the center seats. And that in the layout that exists in the building, the center seating area is an aisle. So our schemes show a revision to the planned layout for seating so that the prime seating areas become seats rather than an aisle. So that's your existing first floor theater plan. The existing second floor has some sort of bleacher style seating around the opening to the auditorium below, and then bleacher style seating rising up, again those colored seats. Of course it was a high school auditorium, so no amenities to speak of in terms of refreshments or place to stand during an intermission, things like that. The next drawing I'll show you is the third floor. And that's when the kind of stadium-style seating that rises up from the second floor all the way up to the third floor. You can see it all there. Again, the seats are in color. And it's at this level where you'll see in our drawings, certain technical things could be added to the design, like a tech deck for follow spots and things like that. So here's the proposed drawings for the 800 seat scheme. This is the first floor, and the difference you can see is that we've reduced the number of seats on the first floor in two ways. Those are the more comfortable seats on the first floor only in this scheme. And as I said, we've gotten rid of the center aisle and put seats in the center. But the big difference is that half circle shape you see on the lower right. Now when you come up the stairs, by the stairs or a new elevator for handicapped access, which is just off the lobby, you come up to a large lobby that allows people to arrive at the space without having to stand on the stairs and wait to get in. There's a coat room, ticket office, and a concession to be fitted out, as you choose. Once you've gotten rid of your coat and gotten your program, you proceed through those doors straight ahead into the auditorium, and that's the seating on the lower level. That's all handicapped accessible by a ramp as well. The area that you see hatched in yellow just to the left of the stage is a proposal for a small one-story addition in that area that allows for a loading dock so that trucks can come and unload supplies or move scenery. But it also acts as a backstage, which your current stage configuration doesn't have, as a green room. And it has a ramped access down to men's and women's dressing rooms, shower room, toilet room, and costume storage. And then if we go up a level, that same shape from below continues on the second floor. Built in under the stadium seating would be additional concession areas for, it could be a bar, it could be a snack place, it could be a coffee shop. And the second floor, the way we're showing it here, is the kind of bleachers area right around the opening to the auditorium below gets fitted out more as cabaret seating. So tables with chairs around them, not traditional theater seating, on the two sides that flank the proscenium. And then the bleacher part, third component of the bleachers, gets fitted out with seating. And then all the stadium seating gets replaced, all way up to the third floor, except that it's the smaller size chairs. It matches the existing size chair that you have there. And that's due to a couple of reasons. One is we can't alter the aisle depth on the stadium seating because there's the floor steps. And if we alter the width, then the seat count starts to drop. So that's the reason for that. But also new toilet rooms and elevator access on this floor. And then finally, on the top floor, the stadium seating goes all the way up to the top, and it's, I know, impossible to read it at this scale, but there's a new tech deck up by the projector room, again, for follow spots and additional theatrical lighting. So that's where we were for the Phase 1 theater work. And as I said, this is an 800-seat scheme that can be adjusted with more modern size seats in certain areas to target, exactly the seating capacity that you want. And I think that's all I've got with me for architectural. Oh wait, there's more. No, that's it. Yes, that's it. That's just a previous scheme. Yes, at a lower number, so I won't even show you that. So that's where we are for the architectural package. Any questions that I could answer?
The green room, the addition. If you go back to that slide.
Sure.
We are utilizing then one classroom?
Right. That's what this scheme shows. And this is where we had left it back in, I think it was September of 16. And so yes, we utilized one classroom and then had a small one-story addition out the back. I know when we met with DPW, they weren't that keen on possibly losing a classroom, so we might have to figure out another place for the dressing rooms and green room. But it certainly is convenient there because it's adjacent to the truck dock and it's handicap accessible from the stage.
Okay. And in terms of today's meeting, we're looking at this as strictly the Phase 1, the theater, and the first floor.
Right.
Okay. Without including anybody else occupation.
Correct.
Of the building.
Right.
So do we have any comments regarding the plan in terms of the theater? Because then we're going to get into mechanicals and other kinds of things that are going to make all of this work. Ken, any other description about the entryway and the way you're going to be moving things up and down?
Yeah, that's a good point. So on the lower right hand there's that sort of porch that exists that's down one step from your lobby elevation, and then there are 2 or 3 steps to grade. So the site plan indicates that we're warping the grade up there and raising the floor of the porch by 1 step, so you have full handicapped accessibility to that door. You come in, if you don't want to use the elevator, you just go up the existing historic stairs all the way up, one full flight to get to the lobby of the theater. If you are using the elevator, you take an immediate left, get in the elevator, it takes you up to the lobby elevation. So I think given the width of the stairs and the location of the elevator, I think the design is well equipped to handle a lot of people arriving at once, being able to get up and into the theater.
Is the elevator outside the building, or is it in?
No, it's inside the building, and in the lower right of the drawing where you see those dark areas, the center part of the stairs, and just to the left of it is the elevator. So it's built in within the existing building shell.
Is it a full-size elevator?
It is, yes.
And what's it service?
You mean the weight that it can service? Or do you mean?
What floors does it service?
Oh, it goes to basement, mezzanine, first, second, third.
Third, right.
Yeah.
People should understand it. So
Yeah. It's a tall, it gets...
It's a five-story elevator.
Correct.
Some questions on fit and finish. All right. Last night we heard questions. There's uncertainties.
Yeah, and of course, we're only at the preliminary design level here, so it's a little bit premature, but what we've been thinking, what we have done in other theater projects, is that if you take the theater itself, because it's an historic theater, you mainly do restoration of existing finishes, plaster ceilings, medallions, restore the stained glass ley light and all of that. And then probably carpet in the aisles and areas where there isn't seating, and then do an epoxy concrete floor where the seating area is, because it's impossible to get in there and vacuum, and that's pretty common in theaters. And then the new partitions would be drywall, abuse-resistant drywall. They could be painted, they might have wall coverings on them. I think that that new half-circle lobby probably will need a fairly durable floor finish. It could be a stone paver. I wouldn't put carpet in there. The bathrooms are all tile floors and walls. And you know, all new theater seating.
Okay, all new theaters.
Yes. Yep.
Good.
How many rows and seats will be on the first floor, do you know?
I think it ended up, I don't know the number of rows, but I think it ended up being about 110 seats on the first floor. But let me see if I can zoom in.
And 600 on the second?
Yeah, let me just, this is so small, let me just zoom in here. If I'm remembering correctly. I'm sorry, it's 280 seats on the first floor, including 4 handicap spots. Yes.
Now, we have Eric Cushman with us today, project manager from Gilbane, who spends his nights not sleeping, but just dreaming of numbers, big numbers. And in order to dream of those numbers, he has to have some idea of what things are going to go in there. So, you know, questions. Well, first of all, I guess, Eric, your numbers do not include any lighting, audio-visual, none of that, but it includes all of the infrastructure for that material.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what about the stage and all the curtains and all the ropes and bars and mechanisms? Do you figure on all of that being replaced as new?
Stand up. So just to confirm, so basically as Kent described it, it's where our estimate sits today. We have a very similar understanding of the project. The couple things you didn't discuss, the first floor, work and renovation, which we talked about. But so we've got the restrooms to the left side of the plan. Oh, sorry, it's way down here. The first floor renovations, we have the restrooms to the left side of the plan. We have the mechanicals coming up and basically restoring that corridor. The classrooms as they sit today would pretty much remain for future fit out, but you would be able to pull a tenant in there relatively easily. And so that's one piece. And then obviously the mechanicals you referred to, there's a letter from CES which describes the mechanical systems and replacements in the building that's been out there for a long time. And so those are the kind of two big pieces that are also included in the estimate. With respect to theater equipment and AV, it was previously included. We were directed to pull it out. Basically, we had about $1.4 million, which was at the direction and kind of work with Kent and his team based on their previous experience for theater equipment and AV with their experience. When we pulled it out, we've done so because the cost associated with site work went up. You'll remember that originally we were paving and building a small section of the parking lot. Now we're looking at a larger site development. And there's also some cost that we moved into the budget as well to make sure that we had the infrastructure covered for that future equipment AV. So we looked at, with Kent and Tyler, some potential for structural steel, additional conduits and things, so you can go back there and add things easily should you need to. So really, Kent did a great job describing the project today, and we see it the same way.
And so the first floor, as it stands now, will pretty much look like a school still, but with just the classrooms fitted with mechanicals and stuff.
Yeah, you'll end up, if I'm not as good as describing these things as Ken, but if I were, to walk in, there are some entrance modifications required for ADA that we have covered and included. The hallways are probably going to receive new finishes. There's so much work you need to do to get to the mechanicals and the ceilings. I would see new lights, new ceilings, and new finishes in the hallways. And then the classrooms, as they stand on the outside, will probably be pretty much as they exist today. And there might be some work required as we install new systems.
And it includes the abatement again, right?
Correct. As I described last night, the
Yeah.
abatement is, as we've estimated in Eagle's previous estimates with this project. And so it's not a full abatement of the entire building. It's really abatement based on the path of construction and what you need to do to physically build the project.
So the abatement will need to be done in phases 2 and 3 and whatever, when we do those.
On the upper floors, correct, yeah. It depends what you put into place, right? So, ultimately, when you construct a building, if you're ripping materials out for the safety of the workers on site, you have to abate some materials. You can leave, asbestos in good condition, and it's in many buildings, basically. So it's an opportunity to do that depending upon what you're putting in the space, and I would suggest looking at the time with whoever the tenant might be.
Just back to the theater. And my question about the stage, and behind the stage, one wall is all glass, needs curtains. Your estimates include all of that kind of thing?
I'm sorry, a few questions there. So specific modifications to the stage, there's nothing conceived that at this moment that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what all glass wall you're talking about.
I think Frank's referring to, I'll point it out here,
Yeah.
the wall over here, Eric, where we have the very tall windows.
Yep.
On this side, and we would have to have some light control.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Room
understood.
darkening.
I'm sorry, I thought you were speaking towards the
Oh.
statements. Yeah, we'd spoken about that with respect to finishes. And
Okay,
things.
so that's, what we're trying to do is really pin down,
Yep.
what the deliverables will be.
Yeah, understood. And ultimately, at this level, we're relatively conceptual in nature.
Right.
There's a little bit on paper, and as we move forward, what happens with these things is there's a little bit of a ping pong ball. You learn something new about the project, you pull some things back in, you put them back in, and you get down to an estimate. And as we go through the process, to continue the design phase for the next 6 months, drawings get more detailed, our numbers are able to get sharper, more detailed as to what we're looking at, and ultimately, as we learn things about the building, we might find something, is in better shape than we thought, or it might be worse, and we'll have to work through that as a team, basically maintain the budget for the project. But we feel today, as the budget sits, that we have an appropriate scope for the building.
But, and we certainly recognize that, but the other thing we've got to recognize is you come up with a number, and a year from now, we go through much more detail, and that number goes up. What's going to be remembered is your original number. That's it. If that number goes down, then you could be a hero.
So that's ultimately a part of our role as your advocate throughout the process and the project, right? So we have a design contingency of about 5% carried within the estimate to make sure that if there is, we call it design creep, right, where all of a sudden there's a couple small shades that are added, this, that, and the other thing, that they can be soaked up as part of the cost of the project. Obviously, if we find some significant issue with the building, we'll have to deal with that at the time, and that's really only done through continued due diligence by the design team and us kind of making sure that they don't go out and put gold leaf around the whole place and do something we can't afford within the budget. I think very conceptual nature of the scope. As it is today, we believe we have the cost and contingencies covered appropriately to make sure that we stay on budget. I can't predict the future. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't want to blow the cost out of proportion and guess that there's 100% contingency on top of the project that should be carried. We're doing the best we can with the information we have today, basing it off of past historic cost data.
In your budget, going back to what Frank was saying, did it include any of the theater mechanisms like ropes and chains that hangs above the stage?
So it had been included, and we were directed to take that out. So that's that $1.4 million basically that is out there.
So that's been removed.
It's been removed, and that's what we have the infrastructure for. So steel, electrical conduits, things like that, and should need to be put into the project. It's there basically, and the budget's there for it.
Now, going back to your June 7th letter, it was 12/3 for 500. How does that change with 750?
So the next line down, scenario 2, is about $900,000.
Right, but that includes buying parking and stuff.
Yes.
Let's assume we don't have to do that.
Yep, sure.
Let's just assume everything is the same in phase 1, only it's 750 instead of 5.
So basically, I have a copy in front of me here. So the idea would be that you'd add 250 seats. A seat is about $300, for the cost of that seating when you come down to it. So there's a little bit of cost there on top of the 12 and change, but not a lot. The bulk of that number at 900 grand is really a conceptual estimate to develop a parking lot if we needed to
Right.
as a surface lot. So
Another 250 seats at about 300 a seat is
Yes.
$75,000. So
Exactly.
that's about.
it's, on the whole, it's peanuts.
Now the mechanicals.
Yeah.
Phase 1, first floor, and fifth. However, we still have the remainder of the building. All right? I'm assuming your estimate includes bringing in gas, taking out the current fuel oil tank, putting in a heating system, which will heat phase 1, yet somehow connect to the remainder of the steam system for the remainder of the building.
There's a great write-up by CES engineers, the consultant for the design team, that captures the mechanical scope, and it's how we've covered in the estimate. And I really, memory's starting to fade a little bit myself on this
Right,
project, but it's very clear, and we have that covered correctly. So I would suggest I don't know if you have it with you.
I don't have it with
Ken,
me, but I could.
we can maybe distribute an email back around, but yes, so CES
Yeah.
designed the building to basically bring in the utilities, bring in the head end, and then be able to expand upon it as you need to build out the other floors of the building.
Now, you did speak somewhat to the fit and finish of the remainder of the first floor. And you talked about the hall and probably having the main hall already done. The classrooms itself and the library, which is right to the left, that's just going to be cleaned up, or will it be painted? Will it be anything?
But we haven't really carried finishes into those areas yet. The concept, as we had discussed previously, was to basically do the corridors, the restroom, and what we need to get the mechanicals in. So obviously, as we pull things apart to get mechanicals into space, we might have to open up a ceiling, put it back together, things like that. We're not looking at a major cost in the project if we had to, paint those areas and clean them up a little bit. So I would say it's fair to say we're, covered to paint a couple walls in case we need to. We didn't look at gutting the rooms and putting in all the finishes and things like that in the rooms. I'm not sure that's a great explanation, but
So we understand.
Yeah.
We walk in there for the first time. What about a security system? Is that included at all?
These are deep quiz questions.
I don't think we did address that.
I don't know if we addressed it or not. We have some money for telecom, fire alarm, and the like at an allowance on a cost per square foot basis based on historic data. Depending upon what the city wants to do with the building, I would say it's probably feasible within the estimate, but describing a security system would be something we'd have to review together. Are we talking about a couple card readers on the doors, or are we talking about cameras on every corner of the building and everything
Well,
else?
yeah, just to keep the building,
Yeah.
secure. And I would assume then a building management system only will that be included for?
Correct. So building management system and fire alarm really in CS's letter are included as described. And so basically a new head end that you can expand upon in future phases. So you'll have a new fire alarm head end, new building management system for HVAC.
Any other questions, comments? Does it sound like what we had agreed to 7 months ago?
How many bathrooms for the women do you have planned?
It's per code.
It's never enough.
Yeah, it's, and the code now recognizes that and actually requires more women's toilet rooms than men. And I can tell you, so On the main level here, the first floor, there are 6 water closets and 3 labs. And then the next floor up, it's, I think, the same. I think it ends up being 12. And my recollection, yeah, another 6 on the floor above. My recollection is that just because that room was big where we're putting them, we actually have more than are required by code. So 12 water closets for women and half of that for men, which is how the code is.
Ken, if I could ask, you said before about using the classrooms for dressing rooms, and you said DPW, and I think that was Department of Public Works,
Yeah.
had a problem with you using that. Why was that?
I think it was part of, they were concerned about scope creep, and that was beyond what was originally agreed upon. Was that we were to be doing the theater and in phase 1, not doing anything but the corridors and toilet rooms. So I think it was probably some concern about scope creep and cost, but I can't be sure about that.
Okay. I mean, I'll just put this out there. Dressing rooms are a must, and I've said this before. So if we're going to have any kind of acts using that theater, that I think that's
I believe in fact, City Hall became an issue, they would require that room.
Well, we talked about that last night, and I asked Eric specifically if the dressing rooms were still going to be included if City Hall was there. They said yes. Yes.
They said the cost room is included. I said you might want to do some programming in the future with the design team to say, is this the best spot for it?
Okay.
And so we have the cost covered for the addition, the loading dock, and the like. If you get a neighbor in there in the building, maybe we work together as a design team to figure out, is there another spot? Is there another way to do it? This is kind of my comment.
Frank, there was talk last year of a possible stairway, either inside or outside, going down to the existing gym as a big dressing room or holding room. They were talking about how the OM has so many participants in the show that the possibility of using the existing gym floor for a lot of these people, that was in a discussion last year. So is that just, was it off the table, or?
It's off the table because unless you bring the entire gymnasium level up to life safety code with exits and entrances, you can't do it.
And also with ADA compliance, if you have anybody in the show who can't do the stairs, they can't be using the dressing room downstairs.
So the last time we really reviewed all of this, we were ready to go to design documents. How long will it take to get the design documents if you started next month?
I would think 6 months, something like that, to get through construction documents, or, well, because we were originally hired just through design development.
Correct.
So, yeah, I would say we could get through design development in about 4 months.
4 months?
Yeah, and full CDs probably in another couple, 3 months after that.
And how long would it take to get an estimate of the cost of doing that?
Do it concurrently, no?
Yeah, we usually, when there's a CM on board, like Eric, we usually collaborate as we go, and then you usually take a little time at the end of each phase, right, Eric? Yeah. 3 weeks or something?
No, I mean, the cost of getting the design documents completed.
Oh, I see. Oh, and what was the question about the cost?
What is it going to cost?
Oh, I'd have to check our contract.
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember what we agreed to.
Okay, all right, so it has been agreed.
Yeah.
All right. And obviously, Eric, once we have those documents, we'd have a 92% accurate estimate.
So basically, we can describe, you go to DDs, then you go to CDs at the end of the day, right? So when you get to DDs, you'll see a ton of, you won't be able to flip through all these pieces of paper, and then
Right.
CDs even more. And so as we get more information, start to get more and more accurate, basically. So at DD, I would say you get that 75–80% level of comfort. They've done a lot of due diligence on the building, really understand a little bit more about the construction, things like that. And then really 50% CDs are going to be kind of more like 90%.
But to the chair. You're going to evaluate an area as you go, right?
Absolutely. So, if during DDs, the design team runs into an issue or something like that, or we see an opportunity to maybe change something around, we would certainly suggest that and provide continuous feedback. And what we end up doing is, like Kent referred to, a milestone estimate. So once we're done the DDs, really locking in a number and saying, okay, we have all the documentation, we understand it, here's where we are today. In the meantime, as we attend meetings, provide some feedback on cost, constructability, schedule, and anything else.
So, Eric, what I suggest we need is you've given out a lot of numbers. One final number, which I think would be somewhere in the range of 13.2, because, Walt, probably need your help here. I would suggest then a motion be made to request the 10-year capital improvement committee to fully fund phase 1 to whatever that estimate is, which I think is like 13.2 or 3 million. Would that be appropriate, Walt?
I think you probably need to do 3 separate motions. I think you're going to have to do one motion to the City Council requesting to move forward with the phase 1 of the Theater Cultural Center development and have them establish that as a project. I think you need to do a second motion to the Board of Finance, and I don't know if you need to do it this month, but you're going to have to ask them to release some of the $5 million that you have in the project, because right now the $500,000 that you have won't cover you through final design documents. So you're going to have to get some of that money released. But the third would be then to go to the 10-year capital committee, and ask them to fund, once you feel you have a comfortable estimate, the full construction of that phase 1.
So what's your recommended time? The first one, the City Council, we could do tonight?
You could do that one tonight, and knowing that you are going to need some additional money, you could, since you have 2 members of the Board of Finance, they could bring it to the floor of the Board of Finance to potentially release some money if you need to extend contracts over the next month.
But can we ask the architects to go forward on the design docs before City Council votes on it, or we have to wait for City Council?
You'd be wise to wait for the City Council to acknowledge a project, because you would have them performing work that conceivably might not be done.
Right. So anyway, then I entertain a motion to the City Council to move forward with this project.
I make a motion to put forward to City Council requesting the city move forward with phase 1.
Second.
I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any comments?
I'm just trying to think how the council deals with this before any decision is made on the City Hall relocation.
We are having a meeting next Wednesday, the 28th.
Right.
Last night we talked about relocating City Hall there.
Yep.
On the 28th, there's a new little wrinkle in the plan of 10 Main Street.
There's a new proposal.
Yeah, being involved somehow. So we're going to learn about that next Wednesday.
The joint board can't take any action.
Right.
Joint board has no authority to take action.
We have a special City Council meeting right after.
Following
this.
that.
Yep.
Okay. So if the special City Council meeting votes to move City Hall there, then the project for the theater no longer costs $13,200,000.
Yes.
Costs less than that.
Yes.
So I guess that's my quandary. But, I mean, we can but the city council has that up. That's not our responsibility.
I mean, let's get started.
Yeah, the only other issue is,
Well, it's a city hall issue, but
right, the only other issue is, we don't want to get into discussion about that, but we're not going to have 750 seats unless we can find a solution to the parking problem.
well, it's true. That's true.
But
I know you're as optimistic as I am that
Yeah.
we will come up with that solution.
well, that people will see the wisdom of our point of view.
Correct.
How's that?
I am very optimistic. We will get a solution to the parking.
So that, any other comments?
So the motion is to city council move forward, requesting the city move forward with phase 1. Are we defining phase 1 at all, or it's just phase, I'm saying phase 1?
Phase one.
Phase one.
Which,
Phase one.
which was applied.
Okay. Just clarifying.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
How long will it take to do this
To do what?
construction?
Once it gets started,
Yeah.
36 months there?
Yeah, come away. It's like home makeover. So you heard about 6 months to get to construction documents. You put the project out to bid, which would be, if we started tomorrow, January, February. Obviously, we're not starting tomorrow, so we're probably putting it out to bid first quarter of next year if everything moved fast. And then the physical construction, ignoring any decision-making time once it happens, probably about a year.
How long,
Maybe a
Eric?
little bit less, 10 months. So we need to take a harder look at it. So,
How long?
I'm saying 10 months to a year.
12 months?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm marking that down, Eric. All right, with that.
You gonna bring Carrie to work nights, or what are you gonna say?
Well, I never leave town anyway, so.
All right, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So moved. Any other comments from our
Yes, I'd like to thank...
attendees?
I would like to thank the committee for hanging in so long and staying with the project. Thank you.
Well, with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes.
The architect, with all the things we're doing in there, I don't know if you have an acoustical consultant, but we start putting up new walls and whatever, the one thing we don't want to do is to destroy the existing acoustics in that space.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because there are some places you don't even need a microphone to.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do actually have an acoustical consultant on board, Jackie Holden.
oh, okay.
And they're really good. Yeah.
Frank, you're not making any other motions for any funding or anything? You're done?
No, we will delay that. Okay? So we'll, hopefully at next month's meeting, we'll be able to
Okay.
pass motions to request funding, but I guess next Tuesday's meeting might give us more information.
Gotcha.
So with that, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully, we're on our way.